you a early happy Labor Day. Last year, I didn't have the Labor Day parade in my hometown of Janesville, but this year it's back.
Hello.
And I'll be there. We'll be there, standing together with working people in the state. Something else they tried to prevent from not bringing back, and that's the real early voting. Well, the real early voting is back. The people of this state are going to get a chance to actually vote in a fair way, and I am so excited about that. As Bill said, no issue has a greater impact on our community than that baseline question of whether you or not you can find a job, and then of course the related question, which is once you have a decent job, having some kind of security of knowing that you're not going to have one of these big companies simply pull up stakes and ship that job to overseas. Now that's part of economic security. It's not just knowing that what you're getting right now is paying the bills. It's knowing that it won't just be ripped away from you. People won't have that feeling of security until we stop these lousy, unfair trade deals. While people as Bill said, I've gone to all 72 counties last year, all 72 counties this year. We're doing it again, going to most of them. And you know what we hear is just that day-to-day reality of trying to pay the bills. You know, trying to afford, have a little time off when you have a child, daycare costs, worry about saving enough to have a little money to retire with dignity or to have your pensions protected, sometimes aren't done. Worry about having to support an adult child who sometimes loses a job. That's a reality for a lot of people. And then all of that, that's the day-to-day struggle to make sure that all works, and then have it in the back of your mind that someday that manager is going to call that meeting and say, we're so sorry, but we're going to be shipping these jobs somewhere else. That's a terrible moment. Not just for that person, but for their family and for the entire community. I think it's a fear that no one in Wisconsin should have. And I also think it's not one that has to exist. But the fear is real because it's been now, decades of this kind of deal. I call them corporate handshakes. These aren't deals between governments, really. They're people, governments appoint the corporate leaders to cut the deal. And you're not at the table, and those who care about the environment aren't at the table, and that's what they end up with. And so, deals like NAFTA upend families and gut Wisconsin's middle class. That wasn't just something that happened and then everybody moved on and forgot about it. You travel around Wisconsin, you take the time to go to communities of many different sizes. Of course it happened in Milwaukee, to a great extent. But it also happened all over the state, especially in the Fox River Valley, in small towns that relied on one major company to be their whole economy. It happened everywhere. And you know better than anybody the violence that is done by these trade deals of the past, and it's still felt today. When jobs are lost across the community, let's not forget this. It's, again, not just the people in that family who have to figure out how they're going to make ends meet. It affects the entire economy. Local businesses can't sell cars if people can't buy them. They no longer have the income to sustain it. People start moving away. Maybe one member of the couple moves somewhere for a while. The other one stays around. I saw that happen in Janesville with the General Motors plant. Some people going to Fort Wayne, other people staying. It puts pressure on the family structure. Schools in the community suffer because they have to cut programs. There's not as much revenue for the school system. And then more people move away sometimes because there's more crime in an environment that is unstable like that. What it is, my friends, as you know better than I do, is a dark spiral that many tens of thousands of Wisconsinites know all too well. But I really believe it doesn't have to be that way, and frankly, it must not be that way. In my view, it doesn't matter if it's a Democrat president or a Republican president. If they want to shove through one of these deals, I'm going to oppose it. If it's another know this again better than I do, but all over the state, there are employers who want to hire more people. There are openings if we have the ability to properly train people to make sure they can get to the technical college or other opportunities that have to be funded often by the kinds of programs that I voted for when I was in the United States Senate. There are also some young entrepreneurs around the state starting innovative businesses. One reason why then I introduced what I call my Badger Innovation Plan is that one of the major parts of the plan is that we do want to help export Wisconsin products. We want to do that. But we want to export Wisconsin products, not Wisconsin jobs. That should be our principle. So while keeping Wisconsin... So we have to keep these jobs here, but to keep Wisconsin's economy headed in the right direction, as we oppose these trade deals and we take the mask off of this thing, which of course Senator Johnson, he voted for all of these deals he's seen that have come before him, but he won't tell us how he's going to vote on the TPP. And we have a right to know his position. The TPP is heading straight for us. It's on a collision course. Senator Johnson, who pretends that he hasn't quite figured out what he's going to do with it, you know he's against it. He's for it. He's totally for it. He just doesn't want to accept the fact that people figured out these are raw deals. But he voted for fast track on the deal. So that means you can't fix it, you can't change it. And the deal's proponents, Republicans and Democrats, say that despite the losses created by previous trade deals, this trade deal is the most progressive in history. They say it has true protections for our workers. That's what they said last time. In fact, they said it every time. They say it will protect the environment and respect the environmental laws in participating countries, but that's what they said last time. And that hasn't happened. And they say it will help build our middle class and benefit working families and not just giant corporations. But that's what they said last time, and they couldn't have been more wrong. We aren't fooled by NAFTA, and we won't be fooled by the TPP. So, the way I like to say it, because I love golf, and I'm horrible at it. I just can't get it. So they say to me, oh, can you say something good about those trees? I said, well, it is possible now that you have more things to choose from at the store. But my view is, I would prefer not having 15 choices of golf clubs. I would prefer having a job to be able to choose between a bunch of different kinds of golf clubs. You think about that. So what if you don't even have the ability to live? And that is the absurdity of them pretending that this is, oh, there's good news, there's bad news. Senator Johnson says, well, you know, NAFTA and all those deals are sort of a wash. No, it's not. 75,000 jobs taken out of our state for manufacturing is not a wash. It's a tragedy, and it's a betrayal of the people of the state of Wisconsin. And if we work together and bring back some balance to our economy, and whole economies will benefit, as my old friend, the late Paul Wellstone, used to say, we'll all do better when we all do better. Not just the CEOs. We need an economy that's not just for CEOs. We need an economy that works for everybody. That includes the hardworking women in our state. For example, what happens when we only pay women 78 cents on the dollar as compared to men? Of course, it's an issue of economic justice. We all know it has to be fixed. Senator Johnson voted against the equal pay legislation, the paycheck fairness legislation on this issue. He didn't just vote against it once. He voted against it 5 times. You tell me the United States Senate all work hard to pass that legislation to be fair to the working women of our state. Just like the trade issue, this isn't as important as it is that a woman doesn't lose maybe $400,000 in the course of her working life because of this. She's not the only one that's affected. Their children are affected. The local stores where they shop will see less business. Getting paid 22% less can be the difference between having a savings or not, being able to pay for a medical emergency or not, and telling your kids whether or not you're going to be able to help them at all when they try to go to college or technical college. We have to provide paid family leave for parents and families. There's hardly any civilized country in the world that doesn't have paid family leave. We don't have it. It's incredible. Senator Johnson doesn't believe in it, but paid leave allows families to plan for the future and upholds our belief that caring for a newborn child is not just a priority, but something that someone who works hard should be able to do without fear or insecurity. Everybody should have that. It's good for the child. It's good for mom and dad. It's good for grandma and grandpa. It is good also for the employer, who will be able to retain a happy, loyal employee as they enjoy their family growing up. And yes, the issue I've probably heard the most about in all 72 counties, this whole context of affording to live, is the issue of the cost of higher education. When you have a daughter or a son in high school, and they got an idea what they might want to do with their life. You know, when I was that age in Janesville, nobody ever said anything about having to go down to the bank and borrow all kinds of money or trying to figure out how to pay for it, because in those days it was affordable. And like every other economic strain, again, it doesn't just affect one segment of people. When you have somebody like the average debt coming out of the University of Wisconsin-Madison for in-state tuition is $28,000 for each person who has a debt, that is an impact. It ripples throughout the whole economy. I'll give you a great example of what happens when that young couple comes into a town like Janesville or Beloit or Wausau, and let's say they both have gotten decent jobs. They finished their college or their technical education, they got decent jobs. But they got like $75,000 in student loans. Well, yeah, it's tough luck for them for getting a house. But it's tough luck for everybody else too. Because if you're a realtor and you want to sell them a house, and you find out they got $75,000 in student debt, they can't buy the house. And the construction worker was going to build a house, can't build a house. And the painter was going to paint the house, can't paint the house. And the man or woman in Ladysmith, Wisconsin was going to make a window that would go in that house, can't do it. That's the effect of binding people in a situation like this where you cannot afford student loans. And the example that had surprised me was I actually met with a realtor who said, what are your top priorities? And it surprised me. Deductibility of mortgage interest, a big issue for them, something I believe in. Being able to deduct your state and local taxes, because we have high property taxes, that's no surprise. But the one that surprised me was his third priority. He said, quote, we are really concerned about student loan debt. And it's for the reason I just gave you. It affects everyone, and it puts a horrible drag on our entire economy when people have to worry about this. This to me is a denial of the American dream. You see those kids in high school, they're working hard. Well, Senator Johnson just says, well, I don't even think there should, he said he doesn't think there even should be a federal student loan program at all. He thinks it's a bad idea. So his idea apparently is you got to figure out how to be born into a wealthy family, which is not an easy thing to do. He opposes Elizabeth Warren's bill. He voted against it that would allow you to renegotiate your student loan just like you can do with mortgage interest. Why? I'll support you on bill. I'll co-sponsor it. I'll run with My friends, we love this state. You know, my family will have been here as of next year, 100 years. I know some of you go back a lot farther, but I think 100 years is pretty good. 100 years with connections to Janesville. And my family came as immigrant family. 1917. My father, not my grandfather. My father flunked kindergarten twice. Just paying attention. You're another dumb kid. But all they could speak was Yiddish. They had the worst Yiddish to English program in Janesville. No good. my point is, we came here as an immigrant family. Boy is right. Boy is right. 100 years ago, and we fell in love with the great progressive tradition of this state. We fell in love with the commitment to community. We fell in love with the hard-working members of some of the great unions, in particular, the United Auto Workers, who were, of course, the union that was the biggest one in Janesville. We always believed that was all part of the same thing. That's who I am. That's who you are. Some people came along a few years ago and decided they should bust up our traditions, bust up our accomplishments, bust up our unity. And they did a pretty good job on us. But you didn't stop fighting. What we're going to do now is we are going to take that unity back. We are going to unify and defeat these guys November 8th, and it's going to be a very exciting new year in 2017.